So, welcome everyone to the next Catributors podcast. Today with our guest iChase. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm iChase, World of Warships community contributor for too many years. And general guide maker, mechanics dude, Q&A kind of guy. So, yeah.
Hey, so our first topic for the day will be the DevBlog that just came out like half an hour ago. And, there are just some new ships that are coming to World of Warships. First off, the Gibraltar.
Yeah, so this is the only one we have any kind of preliminary stats for. Basically, very similar to the Goliath in that it's Goliath's guns, but it's AP only and it has a smoke.
Yeah, it's also got only 3 turrets, so probably not going to be as long of a ship as Goliath, which might be nice. Although we don't really know the dimensions.
That would be good.
Yeah, because Goliath's not the world's, most agile ship either. So that would be nice to have. AP only, which is kind of an interesting decision, and medium to close range. Judging by the model, if you look at the model, you should notice that, like, right at the waterline, there is that T-shaped sort of, inverse T-shaped citadel, which is very similar to the way that Goliath has it, and that's a very explodey citadel. Let's use that phrase.
Yeah.
Has a tendency of inadvertently exploding. So yeah,
we know this gets, well, it's listed the consumables it gets. It'll have DCP, repair party, hydro, and the smoke generator with 3 charges. But the question that this doesn't answer is it going to be the improved repair party, or if it's just going to be a standard repair party? So that will make a big difference how much citadel damage you can actually heal.
I mean, that might also change in testing, right?
Yes, I mean, these are all very preliminary numbers.
Yeah, also, the final version is, God knows what that ship will look like.
Also, they say it's most effective at medium to short range combat, but the surface detectability is not that great. What did you say before? Like around 12 kilometers?
11.5. Yeah, 11.5.
Yep. That's a little worse than the Goliath.
Firing in smoke 9.5. So you have the smoke screen, but 9.5 smoke fire means, you can't actually get close because your smoke isn't gonna do anything.
Yeah, and any destroyer that takes a fancy to you is going to be able to spot you while you're in smoke. So
yeah, you have to be very sure you're not going to get spotted. Otherwise, it's just a waste.
Yeah, I mean, who knows?
We'll see what that's like. But on the one hand, it's nice to have another British premium cruiser, but it would be nice to have a ship that actually existed rather than, like the Goliath is not a popular ship at Tier 10. You don't see it very often. It's pretty niche, and this doesn't even have Goliath's mini HE nukes. So, yeah, we'll see.
So Napoli seems to have brought about the Tier 10 ships now.
We'll see. Yeah, we have no idea how this is going
to be.
Who
knows what the currency for this will be, but if it turns out to be something like coal and doubloons again, then oh boy, are we getting flooded with a lot more premium things at Tier 10. Not sure how much of a fan of that I am.
So the next one we have on the list is a Tier 9 American heavy cruiser, which it says is based on the Oregon City class, but has a different artillery layout of only 6 8-inch guns in 3 double turrets, but that maybe indicates that they are going to be very rapid firing guns.
Yeah, the only way I see this ship working is if they give it like basically Des Moines rate of fire. So 6 guns, DM ROF, Tier 9, that might work, right? Because it's like Des Moines Light. It's kind of one of the wargaming things. Like, oh, let's go to Tier 9 and put a slightly weaker version of something, in front of it. Kind of, like think Congress and Alaska, right? Like Congress is really Alaska a tier down with less firepower, right? So I think they're kind of going with the same thing here. At least that's the feeling. But no stats to talk about, so just gotta wait, I guess.
Yeah, we don't even know if it's going to have radar or what kind of consumables it will have, hit points, anything.
Or if it has good anti-air.
Yeah.
Anti-air, the meme of World of Warships.
Speaking of anti-air, there is also a carrier announced.
Yeah, we have the only French aircraft carrier that existed during World War II, the Béarn, I think it's pronounced. It was a conversion of a Normandy-class battleship hull, because the Normandies otherwise were never finished. Now, the Normandy we have in-game is unrealistically fast, whereas the real-life Béarn only had about 21, 22 knots of speed, so it'll be interesting to see if they keep it in line with the unrealistically buffed Normandy, or if it's just going to be a slow carrier at tier 6. So we'll see. I know in real life it wasn't considered to be a very good carrier at all.
But $1 million question is, what's the new gimmick?
Yeah, we don't
What's
really know.
the new gimmick? It's a French carrier now. That means there's got to be another gimmick, right? I mean...
Yeah, who knows? Who knows what planes this will have, what kind of attack it'll have. You can't really tell from what's on deck. I mean, it looks like attack planes, and then further back, some kind of biplane and high-wing monoplane. So somebody might be able to figure out by looking at what fighters, what aircraft it has, and maybe figure from real life what kind of things they have.
The DevBlog itself says the ship concept and characteristics are currently under development and will be announced at a later date. So it sounds like not even Wargaming knows what gimmick it's gonna have. They just know that they desperately need another carrier.
It might be like when we had the hybrids, and we had hybrids with, you know, one type had rocket planes, another had torque bombers, and we might end up getting different test versions of this with different loadouts. Or maybe they'll just slap some more skip bombers on it, because that seems to be Wargaming's thing at the moment.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's nice to see an actual historically existing ship being added, though. And the fact that it's being added as a premium means that the tech tree is just going to be all blueprint or semi-fantasy or even full fantasy designs. Because in terms of carriers, I don't think the French did much again until, what, the 70s, 80s?
Yeah, much later on. Really until Clemenceau and Foch, which was much later on. I mean, they had a couple of Second World War era light carriers that they sort of used for a while. But in terms of their own sort of indigenous designs, nothing really until much later on. So, I don't know, French CV line really just other CV lines, I guess, just kind of mashed in there. That would be kind of an odd choice. It's mostly gameplay. I'm really, sort of thinking through what kind of gameplay these things will have, because going by Wargaming current thing, they're gonna want something new, right? Like something spicy for this particular line. Now, it is possible that what we will see is that the French line really is just something pre-existing, and then the real line comes out later. So you think like they'll occasionally have like very normal ships, right? Like they'll test something on like no, they might test something, because if you think about it, like Max Himmelmann was the test for skip bombers. And where did those things show up? Oh, right, Soviet carriers. So it's like that might be a thing. Maybe this is just going to have some new gameplay thing or something, and then we'll test it, and then next thing you know, bam, whole new line, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's entirely possible. You look at the difference between the Graf Zeppelin and the rest of the German carriers, for example. We can't necessarily look at this when it comes out and whatever it has and say, oh yeah, the rest of the French carriers will definitely be like this. There's no guarantee. There might be something rather different. We'll see.
I mean, since it's kind of a one-off ship, they could try some. I mean, they are obviously, like Wargaming tends to do, they're going to test this on the live server, then the gimmick, right? After they test it in testing, then it comes to the live server where it really gets tested. And then if they see it works, they can slap it on, I don't know, a alternative US line or something. And if it doesn't work, then it's just the odd ship at tier 6 that they don't care about.
Yeah, it's not I mean, tier 6 premiums, it's not something they're going to charge the most money for. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. The cynic in me wants to say that they therefore won't put as much effort in coming up with something interesting as the high tiers, but maybe that's a bit too cynical.
Well, I mean, if they're using it as testing ground for something else that they can sell for more, then they would put the effort in, right?
Yeah. True.
I mean, that about covers, I think, the DevBlog.
They could. I mean,
Yeah.
this is pure speculation, but they did use. I think they did crew some US light carriers during the war as well. So you might see like an independence class at tier 6 or something, but with the French gimmick.
It'll also save them some modeling time. They already have Independence modeled, right? So
yeah.
I mean, there are so many US carriers missing anyway that it's just a matter of time until we have like an alternative line of US carriers, right?
Yeah, correct, for sure. Well, we just need more airplanes in the game, right? That's all we need.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, definitely need more airplanes in the game.
I would not be like we're at the very least going to get an Italian premium carrier as well, and they might even have scraped together enough information for an Italian carrier line. So who knows? But after that, I can't see them. I mean, how would you add more carriers in like Pan-Asian carriers, maybe?
Oh
There's
no,
just
pure
carriers from other
fantasy
nations?
carriers. Nah, pure fantasy carriers, Hey guys, we found this one drawing on a napkin from 1931, and here it is, full carrier line, Because I don't know how many of you guys know, but Wargaming actually does have their own sort of shipbuilding specialist. They have a guy or a couple guys, who knows, who sit there, and aside from purely sort of matching up historical type knowledge, they have actual people who have like degrees in naval architecture. And so technically speaking, give us enough of an opportunity, and yes, we could probably make entire lines out of nothing, out of like thin air.
Well, we've already seen some with the Dutch cruisers, for instance. There's some heavily speculative elements, and I can't remember where I read it, on the forums or in a Q&A or something a while back, where they admitted that they've kind of shifted away from more of a strict historical focus in terms of putting design elements on more speculative ships and going for things that just maybe look more aesthetically pleasing. Because I think there was things like the tilted funnels on some of the Dutch ships don't really have any particular design lineage in terms of Dutch naval architecture overall, but clearly someone thought it looked cool, so.
Oh yes, the Squidward
funnels.
house.
Yeah.
Somehow we have a couple of ships, I think 2 of them in the Dutch line, that just literally have a Squidward's house sitting on top of them. It's like,
yeah. And then of course
wow.
there's the infamous Zeton.
Oh yeah.
Which they've taken, and it's been pinned down which of the battlecruiser designs this was, but it really seems like someone was just like, also let's just stick Deutschland class superstructure on it, the triangular superstructure. That will look cool. And so it just ends up looking like a monstrosity. Nothing like the actual battlecruiser superstructure designs, and instead, I don't even know what it's supposed to be. Some kind of fantasy what if refit, I suppose.
Well, I mean, and they also have designed the all famous Petropavlovsk. That's kind of like a submarine, right?
Oh yes. We had submarines before actual submarines. The Russians got them first.
Oh, I think that's it. Yeah, that's literally the only new thing we've had since last week, and it kind of like literally just popped up half an hour ago, or like 50 minutes ago at this point. But it's been a light week for news otherwise.
But we have like the famous, by now probably, Dev Q&A free from Wargaming on their community Discord. So I've like copy what they wrote here in this file here, and I'll show it on screen, but you can also see it like in the Discord if you want to. And oh boy, it's a real treasure trove of facepalm.
Yeah, there were some there was a couple of answers in there that made you kind of cringe. Some of it is okay, but there's a real couple of things that they mentioned in there that was just like, really, guys?
Yeah, it's always interesting hearing how wargaming puts things, and sometimes it does make you wonder, like, is this is just a poor translation, or but I don't know. Yeah, there's definitely some things in there that made me scratch my head a bit, but there was also some interesting stuff as well.
Yeah, I mean, the first question basically was, why is work on legendary upgrades being halted? And what about rebalancing existing ones? So on. And basically, Wargaming's answer is something like they said they are working on it with a certain frequency, which to me sounds like just you don't work on it all the time, but only sometimes, probably when like they have nothing else to do. So it's a fancy way of saying we are not really working on it. We are just sometimes taking a look at it.
Yeah, we can kind of read that and see that, yeah, they don't have anyone dedicated whose job is even sort of like part-time to do that. It does seem like they just have it, 6 months time, that's when we're scheduled to look at this again and come up with new things or rebalance things.
Well, remember Wargaming's ultimate answer to everything that they don't work on regularly as well is quote unquote priorities. And so it's like anything that isn't being done is just not a priority. And those things tend to go for a while, their priorities that they don't want to address, right? You look at, for example, just think about it, right? When was the last time we were talking about the U.S. destroyer model upgrade? Yeah, that was a couple of years ago, I think, if I remember correctly. Never happened, and they were saying, oh, it'll be done at the end of like 2020 or something like that. They had a date, and then nothing. It just vanished into thin air, right? We asked for stuff that we think might be helpful, like a working replay system. Oh, that never happened, and that's been how many years now? Six years? It's been a long time. We've asked them for that. One of the things.
Another good recent example was Little White Mouse in the Dev Questions channel asking, when are we going to see anything about the late war West Virginia that was sort of pretty much promised at the time? That's been 2 years plus now, something like that.
Just things disappear, that seems to be a thing. Like I don't know, it just feels like you look at a lot of things that's been going on right now, there's a very aggressive push to like monetize as much of the high tier money making stuff as humanly possible, and anything that's like quality of life upgrades or sort of new things that might keep people interested, we don't have that. I mean, just think about it. When was the last time we got a new map?
Yeah.
That was a while ago. I actually can't remember when the last time we got a new map was, and I've been in this game for a while, so it's like, because those are really low priorities, right? That's their take. It's just really low priorities. They're just not very focused on, I guess, things that will make their game better. It's more aggressive monetization right now, right? And so anything like legendary upgrades, which in their minds will only benefit a few people who have the tier 10, who needs the legendary upgrade. Okay, well, whatever. We'll just toss that aside, right? So that's this kind of non-answer that they give, right? And you kind of see this in a lot of the ways they go through this Q&A. There's a lot of these non-answers, like, they give you like something that make you kind of believe that they're telling the truth, and then there's nothing,
I mean, the point they make about with the newer tier 10s, okay, you need sufficient time to gather enough data to decide, how much and what ways you can make unique upgrades to that ship that won't, make it overpowered. that will make it more interesting to play in a certain direction, but not necessarily overtune it. But yeah, it seems like specifically since they moved the unique upgrades to the research bureau, they've just kind of forgotten about them, really.
I mean, probably not enough people like buy them, so they've decided maybe they just don't work on them anymore or such. Or maybe they've just run out of ideas. What I find concerning is like they say they need more data like to work on it, but I feel like a legendary upgrade is not something you design based on spreadsheet data, right? You need to, like, the idea of a legendary upgrade or originally was to be a side grade that kind of changes a bit how the playstyle works, but doesn't make the ship really stronger, right? But you don't find that on a spreadsheet. You have to actually play the ship, figure out how a ship could be used differently or which play style would make more fun, right? The spreadsheet isn't going to tell you that.
You should be able to have that concept from the play style of the ship itself, but as to exactly how strong or how weak you're going to make that in terms of the actual numbers, you do still need some data, I guess. So I partially agree with you there, but I do think they still need some data. So I think that part of the answer is kind of, yeah, but the whole thing does just, that whole answer does feel like that's just kind of, we haven't forgotten, honest. But no actual commitment as to when they might look at it again or when we might see new unique upgrades.
But you see, like, what I think is, for example, when I look at Italian battleships, I mean, what I always miss, like, the Italian battleships would have potentially made great brawlers. Wargaming just decided to not really go down that route, but they could, for example, have a legendary upgrade that buffs secondaries. Especially, you'd need a penetration buff so that they are capable of doing damage. And then you could, like, give them, like, some, I don't know, reduce the range or whatever you feel like he needs to be slapped on as a debuff, balance it out. Or, like, I mean, that the stats balancing out, that's where you then need numbers, right? Where you need actual testing. But the concept is something, if you actually play Italian battleships, to take a look at that and wouldn't it be like great if we could make those into brawlers? And that's something that you could do with a legendary upgrade. I mean, it should have been done in the first place if you ask me, but at least it could something that you don't have to play the ships a lot, and you can come up with the idea, and then you just have to balance the idea.
Yeah, anyway, it would be nice to if they would do more with that, because especially as it's supposed to be, end game content. And instead, the end game content is here, more tier 10 premiums and
it makes perfect
armory
sense.
ships and yeah.
It makes perfect sense, right? If you think about it. I mean, if you were the guy in charge of development and you had to write the next quarterly report for the guy on top of you, would you write a report where, hey, we grew revenue by X% because we released X number of new things that people want? Or would you say, so we spent our time developing 10 different alternative playstyles for existing tier 10 ships. Total revenue gained, well, sorry, we actually lost money compared to last quarter. Kind of a hard sell to the guy on top who would probably can you for that. So I think it kind of, a lot of these things, you kind of look at it from a money perspective. I think you get kind of where a lot of the decisions are being made and why they're being made. Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, they failed to monetize legendary upgrades, so now we don't get any more. Well, the next question is one that has been asked, I think, in the past and somewhat been addressed in DevBlog earlier, I think. It's why, with the potential addition from Assyrian, has the 12 format remained, and why didn't they add more ships like it? And this is one of the most frustrating answers they've given because they contradict themselves.
It kind of is just repeating information they've given before as well. There's not really any kind of new reasoning here.
I mean, the thing is, that's so frustrating for me. The community's argument is, right, if there are like submarines in the game, there will be less ships to interact with because subs do sort of their own thing. And they don't, like, it's a difference if you face a submarine or a battleship, right? You can't just exchange that. So it's not really a 12 versus 12 anymore, because there will be subs. And Wargaming is like, the ship has been designed for 12 versus 12, so they kind of agree with our argument, but they don't acknowledge it because they pretend that the submarine is the same thing like as a battleship, right? They say, like, it's still 12 ships no matter what it is. And then in the next paragraph, they say, but, we will limit the number of subs and destroyers together because we acknowledge that not every ship is the same. So for the first part of the argument, they pretend every ship is the exact same thing. And then they say, well, we acknowledge it's not what we just said. So we make a different change.
Again,
Yeah.
we already had submarines before. So this is the problem. We have submarines. We've had submarines since the beginning of the game. They're called destroyers in this game because they have the artificial, concealment mechanic, right? Like, and the whole point of the if you think about way back in the day, right? Like Fujins and kamikazes and minakazes back in the day, and those were basically submarines. They, like the always invisible, torpedo you from nowhere kind of ships. So submarines, unfortunately, I think one of their major problems is that they don't really have their own kind of thing, because like what are they in the game? They're a stealth torpedo platform. Well, we've had that since forever. So you have this problem now where you've implemented a new class, which is really purely to just get submarine players. Like, and it's such an obvious thing. They're just trying to grab whatever is out there that's remaining, right? Like the hardcore sub people. They're just trying to grab that player base. And then that's it, right? That's your last major player base that you can grow to, is the class that you didn't have before. But like the ships themselves, I mean, if you played them and tested them, they're basically destroyers, except they have like sort of underwater 3D movement. It's like, what makes them stand out? Nothing, like that's the problem. And they play that way too. When you play them, they're kind of a bland class, like the first 2 games is actually kind of exciting because it's like, oh, everything's new. By game 10, it's just like, can I go commit seppuku now immediately? Because this is absolutely boring me to death, right? Like submarines have this problem. They're trying to basically be like alternative destroyers, but like, destroyers are so much more capable of so many more things, right? Like you think about what a destroyer is like, they can do so many additional things, and a submarine that just cannot. So it's like the playstyle is very bland and it's very dry.
Yeah, it's like you miss out on, like if you're Shimakaze, you do spotting, right? Because you're on the surface and you can actually see ships. So it's not like you're just doing torpedo, you're helping your team by spotting, you're helping your team by maybe taking caps. You're doing things while a destroyer does none of that. All of the team utility falls away, and you're just a stealth torpedo boat. And you're even like a slower stealth torpedo boat, so you have less opportunities to position yourself better. So it's just like, you're half a destroyer that's a bit more boring to play.
Yeah, and they also don't have the hitting power. That's the other thing. The submarines I don't find having that, like, they don't really have that hitting power. You think about like a DD. If a DD lands a good torpedo salvo and they hit like majority of their torpedoes at whatever tier, you're in a lot of pain. You kind of explode in a lot of other cases. And you can eat the full salvo from a submarine and still kind of just go, like that was okay. It's like, wait, hold on a second. How does that make any sense, right? You have this one class that's only torpedoes. It really has nothing else going for it. But it's only good at this one thing, and yet this one thing isn't really all that scary, right? I mean, in fact, it's kind of annoying. The pings are just actually kind of annoying. Oh, the torpedoes bend. That's kind of annoying, right? But it's like, I don't know. They just don't seem to add anything really for me besides make the games probably end up feeling more empty. Because imagine if you have a 12v12 and like, let's say 3 people end up in a submarine. Then you're basically playing like a 9 versus 9 on the surface. It's kind of a boring game. Oh yeah, and then you throw in 1 CV. So sorry, 8 versus 8 because the CV never appears anywhere either. So 8 versus 8 in a random battle, that does not feel very good, right? Where the submarines are just underwater doing their own little thing. Not sold on that.
And that's so frustrating because Wargaming's answer is the battles were designed for 12 versus 12, so we can't add more ships while you're fighting your 8 versus 8 and cry.
It would be nice if they'd even just tried it on the test server and made it like, 14 versus 14, but the extra 2 slots are, only subs can go in those kind of thing. What I was going to say is, if they'd even made it something like flooding caused by sub-torps was like old flooding where it was properly scary, that could have been something at least that would differentiate it from destroyers. but it doesn't even have that going for it really. So yeah, I'm definitely. I mean, we've talked about this in previous podcasts, but I'm definitely with you guys. I really don't see them having a place in this. I think the only draw for sub-interested players off the back of what you were saying, iChase, is that this is a multiplayer game, and multiplayer games with this era of subs in are kind of few and far between. There's plenty of single player sub sims and semi sims out there already, so that would be the only draw really. I think Steel Ocean had subs when that came out, but they were really kind of finicky to play. And does anyone even play Steel Ocean?
I don't even know what it is.
I tried the
competitor that
submarines.
came
The
out.
submarines was like a lot more straightforward though. None of the crazy weirdness that we have this one.
Yeah.
Like because we're not dealing with 1970s era, 80s era, Mark 48 ad caps or anything like that. We're not dealing with that. We're doing just straight torpedo in a straight line, which required you to lead or anything like that. Here it's like, what is leading? I can just make the torpedo start going into all these crazy bends. It's like, I'm not sure that's how things worked back then, So it's not one of those weird, like, what is the point of these weird systems that you're forcing in? I don't know.
Well, apparently they shut the servers down on Steel Ocean last year, so that's now officially dead. Oh well.
Oh, moving
I've
on.
thought Steel Ocean for ages.
Oh.
Just randomly occurred to me. Oh yeah, that had submarines. Anyway.
Yeah, I guess the next question was, in the last Q&A, most changes suggested by the community, including good players, were dismissed outright for Wargaming staff. Over weeks after the sessions, balancing changes were implemented anyway. This begs the question why there's such a communication gap between answering those Q&A and implementing a balance changes.
This is one of the most annoying answers they gave, in my opinion. Actually, they really started the answer with actually.
Yeah, actually, there is no communication gap. They always consult with the balance team in order to share the most relevant information. And yeah, those changes obviously can happen for a variety of reasons. We weren't completely sure of the relevance and such didn't announce a comment on them earlier. But like, if you say, no, you're wrong, that doesn't mean like that's not saying that you weren't sure of the relevance. You just basically claimed people were wrong and then did what they said. Yeah. It's like a pretty obvious communications gap to me.
And it's not even, I mean, just the premise of the question, it's not even like, well, and this is just generally based on like even interaction with the devs. It's kind of rare to get an answer of we'll actually consider that.
Yeah, it feels like, and not just with the community, also in the community contributor program, if you provide feedback, right, and you can write out an essay and you can make good points and you can make long arguments, but usually the answers are oftentimes that's just your opinion, or you are wrong, or that doesn't agree with our statistics, you don't actually, and it's like, in a sense, I don't think Wargaming intends it to sound that way, but Wargaming sounds very condescending because they refuse to go into arguments and they refuse to justify the decisions, and they just come out with like, you are wrong, right? It's like as if everyone is beneath the notice. And the sad thing is, when you then make a snappy remark back, they're like, language?
Hey, I mean, I'll give them this. At least it's a step up from the World of Tanks community. Back when I was a CC for that, when you just didn't get to speak to anybody ever at all. And all you had was the translated answers from the Russian forums to go on.
I mean, this is honestly something that this is, I think, what a lot of the reasons why like a lot of CCs are incredibly, I guess, burned out or just kind of frustrated with giving any kind of feedback. I mean, we can't talk about specifically who and what was said, but you guys have looked at the feedback sections enough in the CC Discord. It's like people don't want to do it anymore because this has been the sort of generic kind of answer we've gotten just more times than I think I can count, and it's also funny because you see a lot of the newer CCs that come in and they're all like, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. They're all like, oh, I'm going to go change the game. They come in and they're like, I'm going to go offer some feedback. And then, like within like 2 months, yeah, they're just as dead on the inside as the rest of us. We're just like, what is feedback? The other thing, of course, is that one of the real problems with wargaming is that they look at a completely different set of metrics than we do. And they're not very keen on ever talking to us about what kind of metrics they care about. Now, they tried it at the CC Summit in 2019. And what they tried to do was they tried to do this whole like, oh yeah, here's how carriers were balanced. And here's how the whole process we went through carrier balancing. And eventually, a lot of the sort of the skeletons in the closet for how they balance stuff started coming out, right? One of them was, oh yeah, by the way, so we have this combat efficiency graph, that goes from here to here. And I went, hold on a minute, wait, why is your combat efficiency graph just kind of cut off on the ends? It's like you're just showing me a middle section between 15 and 85 percentile. Where's the top 15 percentile? It's just gone. You just delete that data like it's irrelevant. But those are the best players. How do you delete that data, right? And they're like, oh yeah, well, we're just presenting this data. This is our data. This is how it works. And I'm like, well, carriers are broken because the top 15 percentile of the people who make these things broken, right? How can you just eliminate that data and pretend it's not there? It's like that doesn't make any sense, right? So that, and then of course, along with the other one, which is the popularity of the class. Oh boy, that was a great one. They look at those kinds of things too, and it's like the data that they look at and the data we see is just such different data. And it's like I think this is one of the big reasons why none of these discussions ever happen the way that because they're looking at these other things. They're like, oh yeah, we want this decision, right? I mean, they put in a ship, and they're like, okay, we have the ship in the game. And the entire reason for that purpose of that ship existing is we just wanted to drain X, Y, or Z resource. We don't care if the ship was balanced or imbalanced or whatever. We just wanted to drain X hundred millions of coal out of people's accounts because there's too many people with too much coal. We're never going to know that. We're never going to know that was the real reason for the ship. We're just going to look at it and be like, the hell's the point of this ship? It's broken or it's underpowered. Like, do something about it. But in their minds, it's like they've got a completely different objective, right? And we can't ask them what the real objective is because they won't give us an answer. It'll be a non-answer, right? And they don't, like somebody asked them the other day for like hey, could you tell us about like roadmaps or whatever? Oh, no, that's all internal stuff. We can't show you guys that. We can't talk about it. No, yet, no, right? And they'll do that to you. They'll just be like, they'll just shut you down. And then if you dare to say something, and this is the other thing, you dare to say something that isn't really confirmed with them, if that's how they say it, oh boy, they come after you afterwards. They're like, can't say that. You should have asked us first. And you're like, how the fuck was I supposed to know to ask you first? Sorry, excuse me, but how do you are you serious? Like, how was I supposed to know that I had to ask you about this question? Because every single time prior to that, you guys have given like non-answers, right? It's like, so what was I supposed to do? Check with you for every single thing? It's like, it's so silly. It's really, really silly.
Yeah, and I mean the Q&A kind of goes forward in that direction with the question is, do you consider top player feedback more valuable than average player feedback? And do you at least consider this approach for 10 ships if you intend to hold further competitive events with the 10 ships? And I mean, once again, they just say that they value player feedback from all sources and it doesn't actually matter to them. And it was this where they went into surveys. Like what it sounded like was in that answer. That basically that they send out this in-game service and so on, and that's something that they take a look at. But instead of going to actual feedback like on Reddit or in the forums or from the contributors where it's like actually thought out like written paragraphs and arguments, they just probably prefer it if they send out an auto survey where you can click on is this a good thing, rate from 1 to 5 or something, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it does note that there's other games that do have kind of feedback from top players or player councils or such things, and Yeah, I don't see Leicester ever doing that, to be honest. Just doesn't seem to be the way they operate, unfortunately.
I mean, I feel
yeah.
like they used to a lot more in the past. It felt like 3 years ago, if you like gave feedback, it was like written, or you could get like an answer to it, or it was like, I felt like we had a lot more influence, like not just contributors, but the community as a whole. I feel like 3-4 years ago, they kind of cared. And I just stopped.
I mean, it might be that maybe their vision for the game or their vision for going forward has become a lot more codified since then, and they've maybe, it's possible they do have this behind the scenes roadmap, and they're like, well, that's what we've got, and that's what we're going to stick to, and if the player feedback doesn't really tie into that direction, then shrug.
But like they say, like through the use of polls, we find out how much players like a certain feature that we have introduced. Have they ever tried like asking people? I feel like a random poll that probably people only do because either they are extremely bored or because they are promised that they get like 5 free flags if they take the survey. But I click random things shouldn't be like your main source of feedback. Like I haven't seen like how much data they get and what tools they use to filter out like polls that people just click very quickly to like maybe get a reward at the end. But I wouldn't trust those polls too much. Like if like the forums, Reddit, the streamers, like if everybody agrees on a certain thing, maybe take that a bit more serious than a poll. Or is that just me?
I mean, even if they do amongst the CCs or I don't know, a certain player group, like if they do an annual kind of where do you think the game is at survey, something, more than just the random things that pop up in port every so often.
Actually, you want to hear something really funny? This is just also another, Summit 2019 kind of funny. So the one thing that made it into the game from Summit, and you guys will laugh at this because it's actually kind of funny, was they had us design a Paolo Emilio, right? The original Paolo Emilio design. They were like, okay, so we need you guys to design this tier 10 Italian destroyer. Now, here's the things you cannot change, but here's the things that you have some freedom about. So at the time, I was part of the sort of NA team, right? Sort of leading the NA team through the whole sort of design process for the 1 hour that we had in 1 hour, okay? Not a lot of hours, 1 hour. So I sort of looked at it and I said, okay, well, you know what? Paolo Emilio, right? It's Italian, right? We kind of want some historical stories to it, right? So how about we make it so it's sort of like an anti-French destroyer? So not really fully anti-French, sorry. It's because Italy was sort of France's competitor. So it's like sort of it neutralizes the French destroyer advantage because Kleber at the time was pretty dominant, right? So we're like, okay, how do we do this? So we ran through the whole process, and the ending design was we gave it fuel smoke that we have right now, right? And we said, okay, so the role of this destroyer, because it is also large and not very concealed and everything, but it does have this full speed fuel smoke. Well, the role would be, let's make it so that it can sort of hurt cruisers with its SAP shells, right? Because it had SAP. And so we talked about the ballistics and all that. Really funny part is what actually came out at the end of it. The Wargaming Balance guy was like super interested in the smoke concept. He just really wanted to hear everything about the smoke concept. Like, what are you guys designing? How does it work? What is the mechanic? And so I kind of gave the whole the explanation of it. Next thing you know, that one smoke mechanic became the Italian gimmick. It was like, all right, we're just going to use it for every Italian line, right? It was like, are you guys kidding me? They took that one thing and they made it into like the entire Tech Tree's gimmick. I was like, that's not what was going on, right? And then later on, so remember I had an idea which was like, hey, we should make this anti-cruiser destroyer because we don't have a lot of those sort of ships where it's like, the class that's supposed to be counter can kill the other class, right? And then lo and behold, what do we have now? German split line. What do? They kill cruisers. It's like, wait, hold on a second. Stop it. But it was crazy because they took those types of ideas and they knew, okay, we could use this idea and actually make real money with it, right? And they just ran with it. They were like, oh yeah, we're gonna love this. But anything you give them that's hey, how about this idea to fix something, oh boy, that enters what we call the idea black hole. It just disappears. Idea goes in, you never see anything come out of it. It just disappears into like, the hole, and it never comes out. Like you talk about like carriers. I mean, we had carriers for like 2 years, and that was a horrible system initially. It took them how long, like 2 years to fix carriers? And it's not everything that got fixed. They fixed one portion of it, which was rocket planes. And it's like, that was not the hardest fix, guys. You guys could have come up with that like 2 years ago. That wasn't rocket science. Did you guys really, truly need to collect 2 years worth of data to implement a delay on the rocket planes that you could lead with? Most likely what it wasn't profitable, right? Because if you change carriers or whatever, not very profitable because it's beneficial to the community, but not very much money coming out of it. Much better to take ideas that can generate money because, look, we can do early access for 3 lines. That became a thing. That was much more, financially useful for them, I guess. And that seems to be a thing as well, right? Look at a lot of these feedback for changes. If it doesn't make a lot of money, you don't see it, right? I think someone in the chat earlier was saying something like they were talking about the campaigns and the operations and things like that. Wargaming has said those don't make us a lot of money. They're on the there's a back burner, and then there's the whatever's behind that, and all those things are like over there. They're shelved away in some archive in a box, just kind of forgotten. They're one of those things, and so a lot of the things that we read today, you're gonna sort of see that come up. Really, it's like you ask yourself the big question: is it profitable for wargaming? If the answer is not, then you can kind of see where they're going with the answer, right? Like I think somebody asked, like, "Oh, you're gonna do something about Zao?" First of all, the answer was garbage about Zao later on. But like, really, if they rebalance Zao, what's the profitability? Nothing, because tons of people already have Zao. They can't do an early access with Zao. They can't say, "Oh, here we're launching this new ship, and you guys can roll through 72 different boxes to try for that ship." Doesn't happen. Straight up, just doesn't happen, right? Because they can't make money from it. But if it's like a new line of ships, if something new, and you sell them a new line, oh boy, that's ka-ching, right? Like right there. You look at the Yukon fiasco with Little White Mouse. Why did they react? Why did they even come out and do this whole thing? Yes, okay, Little White Mouse is valuable CC. We get that, right? We get it. But it was probably more likely because of the whole fiasco. Their Yukon sales dipped way below what they were expecting. And it's like, oh, that's not good. Oh, that's not good. We got to fix that now. We got to do something about it, right? It was also like, if you remember Graf Zeppelin, the initial release of Graf Zeppelin, like, wow, the sales were just so in the gutter. And I know somebody who gave me some of the internal data there at the time. And he was like, we did not hit anywhere near what the sales target for this ship should be. And of course, they were real fast at trying to fix everything there, right? They were real fast at trying to address the player complaints. So it's really very, very, very money focused. And if you can look at every question and ask yourself that question, can they make money from X, Y, or Z? And if the answer is no, the chances of that actually happening just almost non-existent, right? Especially within the last few years. It seems to have gotten significantly worse in the last couple of years. It's almost like the people who kept writing those very rosy quarterly reports about how much revenue they had grown. Those were the people that kept getting promoted within the company, and of course, you got to keep delivering results. Once you start to think about it from that perspective, it makes a lot more sense. A lot of the decisions they make.
Yeah, true. Yay, capitalism.
Yeah, I also feel like, I think I said this in the past, like the last Gamescom was like about 2 years ago, right? And it still had a somewhat positive atmosphere, right? The contributors there as well. Like we weren't all like in this. It's only 2 years ago, but there was still hope, right? It feels like maybe with all like with all this insanity in the last year and so on, and with all meetings and things like that cancelled, I guess there was also a lot less direct contact with the player base, or it's just moved further and further away. And maybe that also had an effect on them, because wargaming seems to really like not connect with the players anymore, right? And it's just like run by what makes them money.
Yeah, and you have to understand wargaming, and this is something that you have to look at. The people who are running wargaming's sort of I guess the bean counters, the people who are really trying to, the monetization people, they've got this down to like a science. And you can make whatever argument you want to make about, fixing little things or campaigns or whatever. They don't see it that way. They really don't see it that way. They have an entirely different set of data that they can look at. And this is where big data comes in, right? This is why most corporations today have entire data analytics departments, right? They know what makes the money. They know where the money will come from. They know if they put out a new ship, then they will make X amount of money. Where if they put out a new game mode, like nothing, right? And they're looking at it from a man hours perspective versus what's the end result, right? And they know it all too well. And this is why you see this constant push for new everything and ever more aggressive monetization. They know people will pay money for it. They know people will whale for things. They're fully aware what the results of a lot of things are. And this is the reason why the only time you see anything happen is when they projected X amount of sales and it doesn't hit. So, and that's as soon as that happens, you think like something like Yukon or whatever, like as soon as that hits and, the sales numbers are entirely amiss from what they, then action gets taken. Then it's like, okay, we got to do something and we got to do something now. We got to fix it immediately. Prior to that, it's just like you look at it, anytime there was enough controversy or whatever, it's just like as long as they made enough money and they looked at their thing, they were like, we are set with this, right? Even originally, Puerto Rico, which was such an absolute mess from a PR perspective. Unfortunately, how many people wailed? Too many. Way too many people wailed into Puerto Rico. And when they wailed into Puerto Rico, the guy at St. Petersburg literally went, see, this is great. We made money. You got to remember this, that Malik, who was, I think, the guy at Leicester, in the same year that the whole mess happened with Puerto Rico, the guy literally won a business award in Russia, in St. Petersburg, pretty prestigious one for, improving sales at his company, like, so what's, like you can see it, right? Like that's the goal, that's the objective, right? And that's all these people there really care about is, they have the data, they know who's going to whale, they know who's going to throw money at them with absolutely no regard. And that's all they care about. They want the, and this is why I said, like, their favorite players are the people who come in, like the one guy who comes in and then like immediately whales the tier 10 ship that he doesn't know how to play, or like immediately whales the high tier battleship, right? It's fantastic because they basically sold the guy a AAA plus title game. And the guy hasn't even done anything yet. He hasn't even like actually used up much wargaming resources. He's just straight up, given them money, right? And as long as there's enough people who are willing to do that, to just fork over cash, and also on top of that, a lot of unaware people who have no idea what's going on in the game aside from what they play every day and are willing to whale away money, then this continues and this will keep going. We might look at standard crates with disdain. We might look at them and be like, oh, these rigged damn boxes. But there's a ton of people out there in the world who just don't give a damn. They open 100 boxes and they see like, 30 ships pop up in their brain. That's worth it. Even though it's all pixels and has absolutely no real life money value at all. But, oh, look, I got like 20 ships out of these 100 boxes or whatever. Like as soon as the things start popping out of the boxes, most players don't care. They're like, oh, yeah, I got myself a fantastic deal, right? Who cares about the short list or the Makarov or whatever other thing that there was? They're willing to give the money. And for wargaming, those are the people they want. They don't want us. They don't like us much, right? Because, sure, we do the promotion work, but we don't give wargaming money anymore. We're the guys who just do some of the promotion work. They want the people who hand them
And
hundreds of dollars with no questions asked.
we have this irritating notion of, that things should be fair and that
we're irritating.
Predatory
We're very
monetization.
irritating.
We concern ourselves with fun, and that's not part of the spreadsheet. Which, fun fact then I was thinking about recently, right? Because they now have this new, they have the CC program, which we are part of, right? And we get some free goodies and some codes to give away, right? But we are basically just independent creators who get stuff basically that we can show it off for Wargaming's PR, right? And now they have this other program, how is it called, where they pay people?
Affiliate program?
Affiliate program. It seems like recently, right, they have pissed off a lot of contributors with their decisions made because we feel like we are ignored and what we're doing doesn't matter anymore and the game goes in directions we don't like and becomes less fun and so on. So it feels like Wargaming's answer to that is wait a moment, people don't enjoy our game anymore and promote it for free. A solution, pay people to promote our game.
I mean, I think that's the most cynical interpretation of it. I think them wanting to break into new markets and advertise with people that,
they've paid channels, big channels before, right, to advertise. Now they've just kind of streamlined the process and be we just roll out a program where if people want to advertise for us, then they get money for it. I mean, nothing generally wrong with it. I've just looked at it a bit cynically because, well, I guess Wargaming made me a pretty big cynic in the last 2 years.
No real comments about the affiliate program. I mean, you see that and it's just even the way they approached it, right? The guy walks in a dark room with a briefcase. He's he's buying you off kind of feeling, it's just that the whole introduction to the affiliate program was kind of it seems to be they're realizing right now that the player base that they have right now is pretty much set. And there's not all that much more out there for them to pull into their game. So now they're really looking at okay, can we do other type of channels that might not be, World of Warships people, but are willing to just do advertising? And can we give them, money for that, right? And so they're now taking it to that kind of route. So now you're going to see probably random channels. I mean, you could do a freaking fashion channel now and decide to advertise World of Warships. And if that gels with your audience or whatever, then hey, you make money, right? It's very interesting because if you actually look at what they put in the affiliate program, they pay up to $12 per CPA. So it's there's sort of some interesting metrics, right? So a lot of times when we're on YouTube or whatever, YouTube pays us based on something called CPM, which is sort of okay, you get X amount of dollars for 1,000 views. It's mostly an impressions based thing, right? If you get 1,000 views, you get this much money. It's kind of an impression, how many people saw this ad, right? Where Wargaming very specifically in its affiliate program is doing CPA, which is click per action, right? Cost per action, which is how many people actually click in and actually do the action. So your views don't matter to that. It's just how many people click and engage into the link and engage in the game. It's very specific, right? So you can kind of see what the objective is. It's who cares what channel you are, as long as people on your channel are willing to click that link and come join the game, right? So now they're really sort of casting a very wide net, trying to pick up whatever is sort of left out there, And this is not an ad. This is not one of those this video is sponsored by World of Warships. No. This is not what it is anymore. This is specifically trying to get whatever fraction of a population is left out there, and try to get them in, get them to click, get them to join the game, and ideally to milk them for however many dollars those new people are worth, because the game fundamentally, if you think about it, it's pretty good playable wise. When you first get in, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, kind of playable. It's not that bad. Things really kind of take a bit of a spike when you really run into sort of tier 5. You run into the first real players, the first real human players, and then oh boy, like you suddenly feel like, oh my God, you're the SEAL, you're getting clubbed, and now you're trying to figure out why, but you don't really know. So you think, okay, it must be because they have an overpowered ship or whatever, right? So you start to, think about money and spending, right? That's where a lot of it happens. I had a guy the other day, he's like, oh, I'm so good. I love this game. I'm like kicking, everyone's butt. I'm like, okay, what tier are you playing? He's like 4. Like, you realize you're playing like half bot teams, right? And that you're killing a lot of bots. He's like, wait, what? They're bots? I'm like, yeah, they're bots. How do I identify a bot? The guys with the colon and the sort of famous ad. Those are bots? There's that reaction, right? And I'm like, yeah, you got to get up to tier 5 before you run to humans. He's like, dang, I've been misled all the way through. I thought I was great at this game, right? Yeah, him getting to tier 5 was a bit of a wake-up call there.
Well, I mean, they specifically, I can't remember when this happened, but I can't remember if it was just generally or for co-op games only, but they improved the bot AI to the point where a lot of players were actually struggling against it, so they just rolled it back to the current AI model where it's quite easy to steamroll them. Which I think that probably ties into that. That probably had quite a lot to do with it.
Yeah, also I think when you create a new account first, there is a cope battle selected. You'd have to actually find the button and switch it to random battles to play random battles. Also back to the Q&A
yeah,
thing.
we kind of away from the questions a little.
Well, I mean, kind of, because the next question was what metrics are used by wargaming and balancing ships, and I mean we've touched on this a lot.
Yeah.
And they basically refuse to share the metrics, which, as iChase has pointed out, because it doesn't probably make a good PR move to saying, well, we made this ship overpowered because it makes us more money. It's probably not a good argument for the player base. But it also they say they take a lot of things into account, like absolute damage, relative damage, average number of ships destroyed, so on and so on. And then they are something that iChase also mentioned earlier, they mentioned the SAR, and I mean, Khabarovsk became very efficient after the limitations on damage from large calibers, and SAR is one of the leaders in terms of number of battles played. That's the argument for the SAR, right? For the Khabarovsk, they just try to say, well, it's become more effective recently, so I think it's fine. And the SAR, well, lots of people play it, so it must be fine, right?
Yeah, so they're looking at a popularity metric there, right? That's their CV popularity metric. So that's what they're making the argument with is, oh, it's popular, so it's fine because it's okay in the popularity metric, right? So it's kind of one of those things where it's like what they're looking at and what we think is balance is so completely different, where. Yeah. In some games, you think a lot of FPS games or whatever, there's usually some sort of consensus, okay, this is overpowered, and okay, the developers look at that and go, yeah, that's probably a little bit too much, right? And then people sort of dial things back. Imagine if Rainbow Six started balancing guns based on, oh, you know what? This is this incredibly popular gun. Let's just balance it based on that. I mean, people would lose their collective minds in a competitive community if you actually told them that's how you balance things, right?
I've touched on this in previous podcasts as well, but it's like Gaijin's the other example where the way they balance things, if things are specifically being played too much or too little in their eyes, is economically. So you end up with certain vehicles that just get their income nerfed into the ground, that you're always going to make a loss playing it, or other things where they make it more profitable to play. It doesn't actually have anything to do with the vehicle balancing or stats or anything like that. So that's definitely a fairly egregious way of doing it. So at least wargaming doesn't do that, but still, yeah, that really shouldn't be a kind of be all end all. Is well, lots of people playing it, so therefore it must be good. I mean, it can tell you something, but it's not. You can't have that be your only reason for not buffing a thing or not nerfing a thing.
I mean, wargaming, they're also, and this is the thing that's also been brought up in the past, right? They're like, oh, no, we don't want to balance to the top percentage players. We don't really want to balance for the best players. We kind of want to balance to the average. We want to balance to so everybody, right? And their whole point is that, oh, they don't want to make a ship where like the best players are amazing at it, and then like the average players are like, what the hell is this thing? How do I use it? Right? That's the whole argument that they make. I mean, whether you buy it or not, that's another story, but that's their argument, and this is the thing, like no matter how much of a population you have of expert level players who can give expert level feedback, they will always kind of go, oh yeah, but you're the minority, and we have to consider the needs of the majority, which means they'll always go to their average data and try to balance for the average player, right? And that's that's just their the way they operate, and that's how they look at every single ship, right? So it's like, yes, you can have clans, super tests who are like the best of the best, or you can go to like the Kings of the Seas tournament people, and like those are really good players. But at the end of the day, if they give any feedback that is in sort of opposition to Wargaming's average player, feedback and needs, well, you minorities can go, take a hike. We're gonna cater to the majority, right? Like that's their thing. So, I think this is why a lot of people say, like, they'll ask questions and they'll be really frustrated and be like, how come you don't listen to the people who know what they're talking about, right? I mean, that's Wargaming. They're like, no, we got to listen to every Joe Scrub out there, Oh, the guy who just goes full broadside in his BB and gets straight deleted. Yeah, we got to take his feedback too, even though he doesn't understand crap about the game. We gotta make mechanisms so this guy doesn't get deleted. It's like, just think about that. Just imagine like, somebody who has absolutely no idea what they're doing in game, and yet they have even greater of a voice in the balancing of the ship than you who knows what is going on, because you are a minority and they're the majority. Like, just imagine that. That's where a lot of the frustration, I think, comes from, because it makes you want to flip tables, because you go, are you serious? That guy didn't know anything. But Wargaming does that, and they do that repeatedly, right? That's why you see a lot of the balancing being done the way it is, right? You just think about Smolensk. When that thing came out, Smolensk, we're like, what is this ship? Like, are you kidding me? This is ridiculous. And Wargaming's response when we pointed out how insane that ship was, well, our statistics show that the average player is doing below average in that ship, and therefore the ship must be balanced.
Yeah. And I mean, they never they took into account the whole psychological effect or the whole frustration effect. Just if you get spammed at 19 kilometers by a ship in smoke that you can't see and can't do anything against it, it just basically sets guaranteed fires when it hits you. It's just a very frustrating thing to fight against. And even if you know what you're doing, and you'd be like, okay, so the answer is I have to be at 20 kilometers of this thing and I can't go forward anymore. It makes the game more stale and things, but that's also not showing in the statistic, right? If the game becomes more passive, you can't see it on a spreadsheet.
It's exactly the same with tier 4 carriers as well. The effect that has, especially on like newer players, constantly getting double tier 4 carriers at the tier where nobody has any effective AA. Yeah.
Tier 4 carriers. Wargaming's decision in that one, I will never understand. Doesn't matter. And here's the other thing. It's like, even if you think back in the day, right? They're like, suddenly out of nowhere, they're like, you know what, guys? I think the tier 4 CVs don't have enough power. We're going to give Hosho double torpedo. Do you play the game, guys? Like, do you actually play this game? Or are you guys just pulling stuff out of nowhere, right? That was one of the most insane changes they made back then. Of course, for a while there, Hoshos were just the absolute dominant clubbing machines at tier 4. And they finally realized, oh, that's a really bad idea. We can't do that. All right, guys, let's not do that anymore. Let's remove that. But here's Rhine. So you can do the exact same thing just under a different flag. It's like, wait, what? Wargaming does a couple things that just make you kind of, I don't know, roll your eyes and just kind of laugh, and, sort of hopeless frustration is the best way to describe Wargaming.
I have a fun fact for you guys. So a few weeks ago, I was playing Magnesium, and I was in a battle with tier 4 carrier, because there were, on both sides, were fail division tier 4 carriers. It was also it was double carrier game. But the interesting thing is, I have found out that Ignite once upon a time, a pretty decent anti-air ship, can actually defend itself against the tier 4 carrier. If the tier 4 carrier comes in and drops you, and you shoot down planes, yeah, sure, but if he keeps dropping you, right? The Ignite you can't defend yourself against the tier 4 carrier.
tier 7 can defend itself against tier 4. Everything you need to know about this game.
Which actually brings us to the next question, which is about carriers. And it's like they said, it's about the spotting mechanic. But I said they can't introduce a limitation because it will confuse players. And the first answer from Wargaming is, while we do acknowledge that CV spotting could be improved, we don't see it as a critical problem right now, especially considering recent changes to attack aircraft. I mean, those are like two different things. Like, I mean, rocket planes doing a lot of damage that you can't avoid as a destroyer is also a problem, but it's a different problem from the spotting, I feel like, right?
That's definitely the whole politicians thing of answer a different question than was asked.
Oh, yeah.
I gave some specific feedback about this, or it was sort of more posed in the Q&A channel, but there's not been any reply to it so far.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Like, spotting is the issue, but how do you fix that in a way that is, I guess, natural to the player base? That, I think, is Wargaming's problem. They don't really know, right? And you have to look at a lot of the things they did. They built the entire system so that it was simplistic, so they could get the popularity up, so they can do all these things, right? That was the entire intention of carriers. And a lot of the stuff they did mechanically or whatever was simplified. It was meant to be excessively simple. It was meant to be easy, right? And the unfortunate side effect of going too much into the simple, easy route is that you come to a point where you need some nuance, you need some complexity, you need some things to make things work well, and Wargaming doesn't have it. This has been one of their big problems since forever. Wargaming loves binary mechanics. They love things that, it's either this or that, nothing in between. And there's like a lot of their design decisions have very little nuance, especially later on as they get, as they went closer to CVs. For the pure sake of we want something simple, they were going with it, right? One of the other things that I actually said this like way back in the day, I think, not sure if it was during a live stream or video. One of the major objectives from my perspective about the CV rework wasn't just popularity and whatnot. It was also, I thought, they were trying to prepare it for consoles. And I was like, this was something that looks like it's being prepared for console because the controls are simplistic, the things are easy, and on a keyboard and mouse we can do a lot more things. But this doesn't seem like it's really designed purely for the PC version. This seems to be one of those, let's just put minimum cost invested so we can get something that's universal to all of the other platforms, right? Except Blitz. Blitz is sort of a separate story. And lo and behold, what does World of Warships Legends CVs look like? Straight up copy, right? So you got to think about that, like the simplistic things kind of kills everything. Sorry, I sort of cut in there, but yeah, the overly simplistic mechanisms sort of, really prevents them from fixing a lot of these issues, right? Like automated AA. I mean, when has that actually done anything, right? And it prevents you with the automated AA system. It prevents you from really being able to create a system where there's a little bit of counterplay that is possible, right? Everybody just kind of goes, well, my AA is there. It does something. It's a spreadsheet. If it shoots down the plane, great. If it doesn't shoot down the plane, nothing I can do. Oh, actually, hold on a second. That CV player is an idiot. He just flew into my flak. Okay, cool. I killed some airplanes and down the squadron. That's the extent of the interaction. How can you fix anything if that's the extent of the interaction, right, between surface ships and CVs? You need something more. You need a little bit more counterplay to it. You need a little bit more, things that surface ships can do. And speaking of like the changes that they're talking about, like, yeah, okay, I get it. The rocket changes helped. It made destroyers a little bit less vulnerable, and they can't just be blapped out of the water within the first 2 minutes of me spotting them with an Enterprise or whatever, But it's like, okay, so I don't bomb the destroyers anymore per se with my rocket planes. But now all of your larger ships, which the destroyer depends upon for support, oh, well, you know what? I'll just go rocket them. Because, that cruiser there who can't heal and only has like 35,000 HP, I'll just yeet him for 8K at the beginning of the game. And the cruiser just goes, nope, I'm not part of this. I'm out of here, turns away. And the poor destroyer is just like, hey, where's my support, guys? It's all gone, right? Because that's what you do now, right? So, like, they haven't really fixed a lot of things per se. I think they fixed some things, but like in the larger picture with CVs, no, there's a lot more issues, and I don't see them really fixing it any day really soon. Because if they do start fixing it, then remember that popularity metric that they love?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that goes into the toilet, and oh boy, somebody's in trouble again, right? So they can't do it. They got to keep it somewhat popular, give them some power to do things, and yeah, we're just gonna be stuck in this weird limbo for like I think we're gonna be stuck with this weird CV limbo until like the end of the game, which is like a couple years from now, or 10 years from now, or a decade from now. I don't know. When we all become old men, we'd be like, you youngsters, we were playing this game when it came out. Like it'll be that kind of scenario, We remember the good old days. Because I just don't see them fixing it. Like Wargaming, they're very stuck in their sort of developmental mindset. This is the way, right? And you even think about, for example, just like talking CVs, like you think about like why do they need regenerating airplanes? Well, they need regenerating airplanes because you, the CV player, cannot negate losses.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way, like in the old days, you could, as an RTS CV, you can be like, all right, you know what? I'm going to fly into this range. I know this guy's going to pop DFAA. I'm just going to bait his DFAA out. Just bait it out so that he can't hurt me with his DFAA. And then when it runs out, I'm going to go back and hit him. And I'm going to lose a lot less planes. So I can control, relatively speaking, how many airplanes I'm going to lose. Today, well, not a lot of control there. You fly in, the A amount is this much per second. You lose X number of planes in that run, guaranteed. So what's Wargaming solution? Well, let's just make it so that airplanes can regenerate. Wow. Look at the design, right? It's
basically a plane heal kind of.
Planes also have a heal, right?
Healing planes.
The thing is, with anti-air, you can mitigate your plane loss by just not attacking good anti-air ships, right? What Wargaming has basically thrown out was, back in the day, you needed, yes, you could play DFAA, but you needed to know who has good anti-air, and you just needed to avoid those, right? DFAA or no, you wouldn't drop into a booster, right? You'd be like, okay, this is a no-fly zone, I just don't go there. And Wargaming doesn't want people to have to know that because they figured out that people don't want to learn, right? People just drop like a Cleveland and keep dropping a Cleveland, and if they lose all the planes and they can't damage the Cleveland, they quit playing carrier. So Wargaming said, okay, the solution is a Cleveland can't be able to defend itself against planes anymore, because otherwise the carrier quits. The carrier doesn't learn to just attack like the destroyer that's defenseless over there, or that lone battleship out there that doesn't have good anti-air. The carrier just wants to drop this Cleveland, so we make it that anti-air is just, a joke. And that's why we can't have good anti-air, because if they make good anti-air, the carriers would need to learn who to drop, and they don't want to do that. They stop playing carriers. So Wargaming has decided, hey, sorry you guys, but you can't have anti-air anymore.
There's very, compared to what it used to be, there's very, very few specific ships that you have to avoid now in terms of AA. And otherwise it's mostly, well, that's a blob of AA, I won't go near that. And if it's a specific, if it's like a Cleveland or whatever on its own, or even a Des Moines, it's like, okay, I might lose a plane or two, but I can still probably get off 2 strikes. Maybe even more if I'm lucky, if the spreadsheet says yes.
Never mind even in the old days, right? CV players, you had to really consider your resources, right? Because you could get deplaned. You could be deplaned within 5 to 10 minutes if you didn't know what you're doing. So that was one of those things. You're like, oh, nuts. If I lose this many planes, my strike squadrons, that's it. You have to be very, very careful. There was a lot of the dancing around back in the day. Like, when you play CVs back in the day, you spent a lot of time avoiding this, avoiding that, flying here, waiting for something, going there. There was a lot of that interaction. You were spending a lot more time thinking about, oh, geez, where is the target that I can perfectly hit at the perfect opportunity to do the maximum amount of damage while losing the minimum number of planes. Today, send squadron. Oh, squadron died. Send another squadron. Oh, that one died too. Send another one. Hit that guy until he rage quits the game. That's the way, right? It's like there's nothing to stop anybody from doing that to you anymore, right? And like CVs can just keep going until they, they can be effectively deplaned to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, it's like as long as they've got like 2 or 3 airplanes, they can at least come over and be annoying, right? They can still try to bomb you. They can still try to even hit you with like 1 torpedo and force you to turn, right? Because That's the annoyance, right? That's the permanent annoyance, right? That's like death by 1,000 cuts rather than just getting nuked. I'd rather just get nuked. If the CV lined up a perfect strike and got everything right, I might as well just die and go back to port. Fine, I'll take that. If I messed up that hard, I didn't bring DFA, or didn't stick with somebody with DFA or whatever, I messed up, I got nuked, whatever. Send me back to port. I'll play again, right? Now it's like, no, you die slowly, death, cut you slowly. It's like, God dang it, right?
Well, I don't know if I agree with, preferring the old days, but it's still not fantastic. And it's been said many times before, but the lack of player interaction with playing squads now, it certainly does feel like a downgrade from how it was previously.
Mostly because I think it's the achievement thing, right? Like in the old days when you killed airplanes, it was like, yes, I've depleted that CV's reserve.
Yeah, it meant more. It
meant more. Yeah. And even if I died, I can at least say, well, you know what? I wasted this much time. I cost him this many airplanes. Now his combat potential is going to be this much percentage points lower. Today, I shoot down 56 airplanes. I shrug my shoulders. I go, okay, so what? He's got more. It's that kind of feeling. It's this kind of like, back in the day, you shoot down 56 planes. You go, I've basically almost deplaned that CV by myself, right? Like that CV's got very little left in reserve, unless he's playing like a tier 10 or something like that, Like most cases, that's the feeling. Where today you can shoot down 70 airplanes and just feel like, oh, okay, cool. Those are pretty ribbons. They're that nice purple color.
Yeah.
I got an A defense expert, which no longer matters either because achievements, right?
It feels like shooting down planes is like the consolation prize because you get some experience for it while you get farmed by the carrier. It's like, okay, so you shot down 50 planes. That probably means the carrier took at least half of your health in that game, maybe entirely destroyed you. But hey, at least you got a bit of experience out of it. That's what anti-air for is these days, right? While you get farmed by the carrier, you get experience for it.
Definitely, yeah, it does. It can definitely feel like a bit like a consolation prize.
Maybe you call it participation prize.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just call it that. Yeah. We're in the new era, guys. Everybody needs a participation award, right? So might as well just give them something. Can't have them be at 0 EXP as a. Every player when they play the game, they got to get something. So give them something.
But honestly, going back to that spotting thing, right? The ones that Wargaming has repeated often, like that just the minimap spotting, that it wouldn't work and would confuse players. And it's like, once again, Wargaming has like not really answered the question, because the question included like mechanics like this already in the game. Why wouldn't it work on a carrier, right? That's literally like how a Cyclone works. Cyclones have been in the game for years. Wargaming has never addressed this issue that like Cyclone spotting works the same way. The game never explains to you how a Cyclone works. People are just thrown in there and somehow Wargaming thinks it. I mean, I like Cyclones. I'm one of the few, I guess, but Cyclones are probably very confusing for new players. Wargaming doesn't explain it to them, but they just have the mechanic there, and somehow they are okay with it. But if they apply the same mechanic to carriers, they're like, no, that would utterly confuse players. You could never do that. Like, that would just be a bad mechanic. But it's already in the game, and I've never seen them address the fact that the exact same thing is in the game, and I think it's fine.
Yeah, but it's different because reasons.
Exactly, because spreadsheet, there's certainly a spreadsheet that says this is entirely different.
Again, they look at different data than we do, right? So we can't really ever judge how they see anything, right, at all. And that's like the persistent problem, I mean, and also even if you look at and I think you guys pointed this out earlier, that in the Q&A answers, some of the answers feel a little condescending, like they feel like they're talking down to you. They're like, that's kind of a, that's kind of the experience I also got like when I was at Summit, right, in 2019. I mean, you had this opportunity where you brought all these CCs together to sit down and have an opportunity to chat or converse or ask questions. That'd be such a nice thing, right? Like, hey, everybody sit down, round table, like sit down with the developers, and we have a conversation. You guys raise some concerns, we address some concerns, we have some whatever. Nope. I remember we went to the office, thinking about like 3 days out of the 5 I was there. We were in the office a whole bunch of days. And most of the days we were in the office was presentations. It was like,
Mhm.
you know, hello everybody, is PowerPoint presentation about statistics. Yeah, you know, like you're like, like this is, you know what? And then they talk to you like you're, like they just present the idea like it's a presentation. Like, okay, this is Naval Training Center, yes, and this is how Naval Training Center works. And then like just like giving you the, like, you know, the presentation. You're sitting there like, wait, aren't we supposed to like give you anything? They're like, no. You're supposed to listen to us talk first, and then of course, like, you know, things explode afterwards, right? Then you would
Mhm.
think with how badly things exploded that if I was the guy doing the presentation, I turn straight back around, go to my boss, and be like, I think this is really bad idea. Yeah, the CCs, they like lost their when we made the presentation. Yeah, they exploded at me. I'm not happy with this. I think we need to think about this. What does Wargaming do? They release the exact same damn thing to the public. And then, of course, with the enough, like, you know, whole shitstorm that happened, they went, "Oh yeah, this is really bad idea. Holy God, this can't work." And Wargaming's collective decision is, okay, guys, we're gonna rework it. It'll be Research Bureau, and we won't do this crazy thing. And then the people who developed it, we're gonna move them to World of Tanks so they can do Crew 2.0 and do the exact same shit.
Yeah.
God damn it. Wargaming and some of the things they do just really, like, they just make you wonder. Like, you just have like a million questions about like what is going on internally there, you know, because things like that just make you like lose a lot of faith in the company.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a long way to go for a bunch of press releases and then a PR fiasco.
Yeah, they're not particularly great at the PR thing. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like a Soviet era mindset that they bring on, you know, they continue into the present day. There's something about like former communist countries and
Mhm.
public relations that are just, it doesn't work, you know. And it's funny because you see it in a lot of these former communist countries. They're really terrible as a nation when it comes to anything PR related, right? It's like the mindset for the people aren't really there. It seems like, you know, they don't know how to make the message sound good, better, acceptable, or at least how to put it in a way that like people aren't going to immediately riot on your thing, right? You know, and that seems to be Wargaming's thing, is that they just really aren't great at that department. Like they're just really not good, right, at that particular job, you know. And the regional offices seem to also have the same problem for some whatever reason. I don't know if it's just because like some things get lost in translation or whatever, but you know, the regional offices, which should be more sensitive to, let's say, the North Americans or the Europeans or whatever,
Mhm.
you would expect that they would be more aware and they would be like, no, St. Petersburg, this is not going to go well, right? Like you would almost expect that. Except
Well,
no, it's, you know, they
I
you know.
will say we don't exactly know how much goes on behind the scenes, so it's entirely possible that there is, you know, feedback going back from the regional offices, and it just kind of
Gets ignored. Oh, just like
Yeah.
us, right? So imagine if you're the employees and you also get ignored. Oh boy, right?
I mean, we got
What?
kind of some of that from. Do you remember Femininity?
Yeah,
Video
Feminellis.
on.
Yeah,
Yeah, I kind of
yeah,
got that vibe from her recounting of her experience.
yeah. I've talked to her quite a bit. I've actually talked to a lot of the NA people over the years, and yeah, that seems to be the trend. That seems to be like a universal trend. It's like if the CCs don't feel like we're being listened to, you figure that maybe they listen to their own employees. It's like no. And if they don't listen to their own employees, then like, oh boy, you know, like there's not a lot of they're just really bad at it. They're really bad at like picking out good ways of communicating stuff. You know, they have a mindset that's like, this is the way we communicate. Yeah, like, you know, sort of not gonna make, you know, not gonna really like, you know, joke about the fact that they're Soviet or whatever, that mindset, but it's like almost like that's how the environment that they were raised up in. Like, you know, men on top give order. Order must be carried out all the way down. Nobody ask any questions. Questions are not okay. Do not give feedback. We don't want to hear it. The man on top knows all. He is the god. You know, like that's almost the way we were like, you know, the whole thing goes. It's like, you know, it's sort of this multi-tiered, you know, like kind of straight one-way traffic flow that goes all the way down, right? And then it's like, okay, who cares if there's a PR shitstorm? We'll just like the guy at the bottom, we'll just kick him out, or like actually what they do is they'll just transfer him to another department, right? Like that's the way, right? Oh, this guy screwed up really badly. It's okay, we transfer him to World of Tanks, yeah, and he can bring his ideas to World of Tanks, and then we'll just do the same thing. It's like rinse repeat, right? We might even promote him because why not? Yeah, it's really. I don't know. It's almost like a culture thing, like it's almost like this is the culture within wargaming. Funny thing is, you actually look over at War Thunder, and it's funny because it's the exact same complaints. I've been talking to a couple of the War Thunder like community contributors. It's hilarious. It's like, so they're talking about Gaijin. It's like, so like you start listening to their problems about Gaijin. You're like, wait a minute, this sounds like wargaming. Are you sure they're not like the same company in secret? Like they're just but like it's the same thing. It's actually really amusing because it's like, oh, they don't listen to feedback. They want to hear nothing from what we say. And every time we point out a problem, they just go, oh yeah, our data shows otherwise. It's like, wait a minute, hold on a second. That sounds like, the same company that we're dealing with here. It's kind of amazing. Which is, and I wonder if that's like a cultural thing, or like if it's just sort of like that's how they all grew up in that environment. That's how they see the world, right? So it's like,
I mean, could be. It also reminds me a bit of the military. So, I mean, I only was in the military for a short time because my country has like this mandatory military service. But it's like my commanding officer once said, if I tell you the water flows upward, then the water flows upward. Basically, it's basically the one who has higher rank is right. That's just how it works, right? And you don't give feedback, you don't complain, you don't do anything. And if you get an order, no matter how silly, you just do it because the only answer you have is basically yes, sir, right? And
pretty much.
That's sort of how it feels. I mean, I don't think wargaming or that is probably unique in this. It's. I feel like in a lot of companies, it's just a lot of people. The higher they get promoted, the more they think they are right, and a lot of people they might also be hesitant to like correct their boss because if like your boss makes a mistake and you correct your boss, they don't necessarily do like, oh, thank you for correcting me. They are like, well, you know better than I do, so now you're on my shit list, right? So it's in companies you always have to be very careful, right? How you interact with and how hierarchy works and so on. So I feel like in a lot of big companies it probably ends up in a way where it's just
Actually,
like the people who make decisions aren't really.
Yeah, speaking of sort of like corporate things. I mean, wow, we're kind of getting a little off topic here, but might as well kind of talk about it. If you actually look at it, it almost feels like with wargaming, what has happened is that as time has gone by over the last couple of years, right, certain people have been promoted to roles, right? They keep getting moved up into higher and higher roles. They've been promoted. But the thing is, it's like there is actually this thing in business where it's like, if you actually keep doing that, what you end up with is a company where all the people who got promoted into their roles aren't actually suited for it. Because what happens is people hit a capability or ability cap, right? And then what you do is once you promote them one step out of that, they actually become sort of like fish out of water. They actually don't know how to do that role correctly. And if you don't have enough sort of change over at different levels, you actually end up with a company where it's like almost everybody's incompetent. You actually can have that. And so this is actually one of the reasons why I don't know how many of you guys know what DARPA is. DARPA is like a defense research thing in the US. DARPA actually, no matter who it is, if you work at DARPA, you have a set contract. You're only there for that many years, and once that contract's done, you're out of there. They don't allow for the same, people to be in that place long term, because at a certain point they're worried that they might promote these people all into places of sort of incompetence and roles that they can't handle. So they actually put you into hard contract, or like you have X number of years in here. Once you're done, you're out of here. You can't be in here any longer. And it's like you look at wargaming. It's like I almost see this as like they just keep promoting these people, and all these people get promoted. And it's like at a certain point in time, they're all promoted into these roles, and you're like, but you don't know what the hell you're doing, right? Like you're making so many errors. Like you shouldn't be here anymore, And yet that same person, oh, hold on a second, we might just promote them one step further. Like it's almost mind-boggling because you see it and you're like, how is this person still there? Like what are the results that they're delivering that justifies them being in this position, right? Like how many PR fuck-ups has wargaming had? somewhere along the line, you've got to start to realize it's like, wait a minute, there's something really wrong with a number of these things that we have. I mean, literally, Wargaming has one like every quarter, 4 times a year. Like, there's guaranteed to be fuck ups. Like, right? It's like you go to those hospitals, whatever they go. It's been X number of days since we had the last fall. Wargaming literally can have a sign. It's like it's been X number of days since we had our last F up. Right? It's like once a certain number has to be hit, we got to have one. Consult manual how to screw up something.
Yeah, I think there was even a name for the principle that you mentioned. And when you keep promoting people as long as they do a good job, that means as soon as they start doing a bad job, you stop promoting them. That means you end up at every slot with somebody who does a bad job, because that's when you promote them any longer.
It's the Peter principle. I just look like, yeah, it is. Concept in management developed by Lawrence J. Peter.
Yeah, there we go. Yep, there we go. That's the one.
So, yeah, it's definitely a fairly well-established theory.
Well,
makes you ask some big questions about wargaming, in that regard.
That's all we can do as CCs, really, is keep poking them and try and keep them honest.
Do you know what that feels like? Do you know what that actually feels like? It feels like all of us CCs, we all have a very sort of pointy stick, and we keep poking the bear, and we poke it and hope it doesn't bite our heads off. That's what we're that's what it feels like. Every day you just poke the bear a little bit and try to try to get the bear's attention and hope you don't get axed. I mean, we had a certain potato who did it a little bit too much, and then Wargaming is like, we had enough of your shit. Get out.
You poked too hard.
Yeah, I poked it a little too hard, but I poked the bear in the eye a little bit. That bear was not a happy bear when he woke up that day.
So the next thing in the Q&A was, you're not a popularist, bounty pinner, blah blah, popular ships. Basically, it asks about things like Yu Yang and Khabarovsk, and they are extremely unpopular for a long period of time, and why aren't they fixed? Because I guess we all know popularity is also going into balancing decisions and so on. And the thing is, they say something like the situation for the Yu Yang is more complicated. It's quite unpopular among other reserve destroyers, but it's partly due to the fact that its performance is now approaching the lower boundaries. So they acknowledge that it's bad, they acknowledge that it's unpopular, and they say in the near future we'll continue monitoring. So they just say, yeah, we'll keep a look. And how long has this ship been bad? I mean, how long do you need to monitor its stats? They even acknowledge that it's not good in the popularity metric. It's shit in all ways you look at it. And the answer is, yeah, maybe we'll look at it for 2 more years or so.
Yeah, sometimes these things seem to take an inordinate amount of time to get. We kind of can't remember what the context was earlier, but we were talking about, was it to do with carriers potentially? But sometimes the
2 years for
was it. Yeah, the rocket planes and the machine guns, the rocket plane delay. Sometimes these things seem to take a really, really, really long time to actually make it anywhere. Even the entirely necessary fixes.
I guess it's how iChase said earlier, right? The old ships just don't make that much more profit because they are not high on the priority list. They're like, how much money is that going to make us? Maybe we'll wait 2 more years and we will do something eventually.
Yeah, they're not particularly fast. I mean, you look at CVs, that was 2 years. I mean, imagine any other game taking 2+ years to even get some of the very rudimentary balance fixes in. That would be unacceptable. That would literally be unacceptable. If something is that wrong or things are just that broken, I mean, they will address it faster. Wargaming, for whatever reason, just seems to be taking a long time just for even very simple things that it's like, oh, this is not good, this is probably a little bit and it's like no they just seem to take forever on certain things, and it's very frustrating too, because you might be like, oh wait, hold on, this is really, really a problem, you guys really got to address this. And holy God, like it'll just take forever, I don't know. It's one of those really bizarre things. I feel like they almost need faster cycles for balance, because right now balance comes way too slowly. It's like once every big patch or something like that, and it's like a month minimum for at least some small balancing things. It's like, but a lot of times, it takes a lot longer. It's like, oh, we need to collect more data. Half a year worth of data later. All right, we're gonna spend another half year talking about it, and then we spend half a year like thinking about how to fix it, and then we'll have a balance patch out. It's like, for God's sakes.
Oh, like Deadeye, where they literally just copy pasted a different skill, and it took them like 2 months, 3 months to do that.
Yeah. And Deadeye was not a good change either, right? And it's like funny thing, hey, all the CC feedback about Deadeye.
Yeah.
I mean, it often feels like they just aren't really like playing the game, or at least very little, because that's something like if you play the game a lot, right, and there is something that annoys you, a month is a very long time. Like if you play a game and there is something broken for a month, you don't go like, well, this is fine, it's going to be fixed next month. You're like, why do I have to deal with this every day? Like, for example, torpedoes that don't go straight because you are making a turn. And for like wargaming, it doesn't seem to be a problem. They're like, what do you want? I mean, they never actually acknowledge that problem, I think. I've heard it's fixed in the next patch, but only rumors. I don't know if that's the case, but it's like wargaming is oftentimes when there's a problem, they're like, yeah, we will come to it eventually, like as if it's not a big deal, as if like people aren't continuously playing this game and have to deal with this. They're like, what do you want? We're gonna fix it in a month or 2 or 3, right? It's a bit mind-boggling.
I mean, we have already moved to more often getting kind of smaller balance changes, which is overall, I think, a good thing rather than great big bludgeoning balance changes. But we could definitely stand to have things nudged more often. I mean, we had one not that long ago where they announced a bunch of. I know we talked about it in a previous last couple of weeks. But it doesn't. It still doesn't feel like it happens that often. So, what was it? Yeah, the 10.6 balance changes. And no, there weren't that many ships on that list. It was some of them were actually quite new ships as well, like the German destroyers. Some of the nerfs were. I think we remembered scratching our head about it at the time, like Leander getting a reload nerf, for example, or Jervis getting less stealthy, but. Yeah, I don't know. It feels like this should have been along the list, and that or else that we should see these lists happen even every patch. Like even if they're just making a couple of balance changes to ships that might need some work every patch, it would, if nothing else, it would look better than it does now. It would look like they're paying more attention to balancing issues.
Yeah, that they are actually working on it to try to keep the game balanced, right? It would also be like, it wouldn't be such a big deal if you make constant changes to your game and constantly like update older ships. Then you're never in a situation where like half of your ships might need a rework, as it sometimes feels it's these days, just because Wargaming ignored it for so long that it just keeps mounting up, and Wargaming is looking at that amount of work that they should be doing, and they'd be like, what if we just like make a new ship?
Yeah, like sizable. Yeah, it'll be like one of those like I think like right now the pile of stuff they need to fix is so big and so large that it might have just become too much, right? Like, and that's sort of where the issue is, right? Where had they done it sort of more frequently at a more consistent pace since the beginning, they might be able to fix things better, right? I mean, like they just left some ships way too long. Like Yu Yang has been in sort of like a garbage state since like that change they made eons ago, right? And it's just, and then like nothing's been changed afterwards. It's like, oh, okay, like this is the change you made and that's it. Like never rebalance or adjust anything, even though there's been how many new ship lines that's been added, and Yu Yang now has to deal with how many new different threats. Nothing, just zero. Yeah. And I feel like right now they have so much, there's so much things that they need to do that it's like they don't even know where to start anymore. Like how do you fix this or that anymore when like 10 other things that interact with it, where you used to be only like 2 or 3, right? So now it's like their problems have, I guess, multiplied, and you know, and it's just not frequent enough. I mean, the idea of not going for sledgehammer changes is really good. The fact that they're using sort of little scalpel changes, small adjustments here, small adjustments there, like that's really good. But if you're going to make small changes like that, the frequency of those changes need to increase. You need to be able to do more, because you're not making huge changes, right? If I shave off like 0.2 seconds off of the reload, that's not like game breaking for the ship. That's not going to suddenly like mess it up and make it unplayable because you're not going with sledgehammer. Okay, so then just like make the change faster. Do like a minor balance tweak like every 2 weeks or whatever, or like like half cycle patches. Just like a lot of games do these like weekly maintenance periods or whatever. 15 minutes of a hot fix or whatever. Like fix one ship, fix 2 ships, whatever. Do it like at a fast enough pace. And if the change didn't work and your data immediately reflects that, oh yeah, look, the damage is done X, Y, or Z, you can say, all right, we'll change it back or whatever. Like you can make these changes. But right now they're making tiny changes, but taking like months to do them. And that's an issue because you can't just make teeny tiny change and wait like 6 months to see what the result is. Like that's where I find they're balancing not to work as well. It's the method is good. I approve of the smaller changes, but the frequency is bad.
Yeah, I mean, just scrolling back through the 10.5 of balance changes was literally 3 ships, and 2 of those were premiums. So yeah, we kind of need more, really.
Yeah, and then there were a few in 10.6, and I don't think that there are any in 10.7, are there? And
none that have been announced.
Like you could really just have each, even if it's just the monthly patch, right? Just adjust. If you only do small changes, nothing should be too problematic, and you could just roll back a small change in the patch. But just have like every major patch do like 10, 15 older ships and do small changes to them, or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, there weren't any at all for 10.4, 10.3. Again, not that many. Although more than 3. Yeah, it's definitely an issue. So what was the next? Where were we up to?
The next, well, it was actually the last question. It's about the Dutch cruisers balance and why they are balanced around airstrikes so much. This is honestly something where I at least partially agree with Wargaming. What Wargaming decided to do was not make the airstrike a gimmick in that sense, but balance it around it and make it a core feature and be like, if you don't get your airstrikes off, then you'll have a bad time because the ship is balanced around the fact that you're supposed to get damage out of them. The problem mostly I have with the Dutch cruisers is, I don't mind playing them. Actually, I have some fun with them. It's the fact that they made the mechanic that balanced around up airstrikes, and once again, anti-air, you can shoot them down, but you won't shoot them down because obviously anti-air can't be powerful enough to shoot down airstrikes, so it would mess too much with the feature. It's like that Wargaming seems so tone deaf, right? They have introduced first the hybrids, then the Dutch with airstrikes, and now comes the Russian line with it. They've crammed so many planes into this game in such a short amount of time. And people have been, for 2 years, they've been so tired of planes. There is so much anti-plane sentiment, and just the fact that it's planes again is just making a feature that could otherwise be interesting. Just, it gives it like this...
Yeah, too much at once, basically.
But it just like makes the feature in itself more frustrating than it should be, simply because it's planes and you're so fed up with planes. And Wargaming is, it reminds me a bit of that, why don't you have phones from Blizzard, right? Wargaming is like, but everybody loves planes. What's wrong with planes, right? They don't get it. They just don't get the fact that we are so sick and tired of more planes in this game because planes have been like such a bad mechanic for so long. And so if Wargaming even has an idea that would work on its own, they just slap it on planes, and people are like, no!
And again, not considering the effect on, the psychological experience of playing, which does seem to be a definite weakness. I mean, they explicitly admitted as much back when there was discussions about Deadeye that they hadn't really thought about how it might affect people's play styles. They'd really only thought about it in terms of, well, it's going to, increase X damage ratio by Y amount kind of thing. Meanwhile, in the actual game, all the, well, not all the Battleship players, but a noticeable increase in Battleship players all sailing around being incredibly passive and just, being encouraged to play badly.
It's one of those frustrating things because people have told them this, and they have told them, like, guys, you can't just introduce a mechanic that way make Battleship players even more passive. Wargaming is like, but there are people who like to sit at the map border and we need to give them something. And they're like, no, you really don't.
Remember spreadsheet. I just remember the spreadsheet. I mean, that seems to be the thing. That's just spreadsheet,
Well, it's basically a meme at this point.
But
these things usually have some root in reality, so yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. So it's a frustrating experience as being a CC and just watching the things that happened. I think these days a lot of what I do with World of Warships is just like I just now mostly just go, okay, well, can I do something and I can have fun, and that's it. that's where I am at now with World of Warships. I think honestly, if a legitimately good competitor came out for World of Warships, like I would probably take off. Because I just don't like the core gameplay loop. Okay, there's still some fun to be had there, right? There's still some silliness to be done. There's still things that are positive to a certain degree, but it's so difficult to support the company. Like the game. If I play with friends and we division up, like okay, I can have some fun. And I can enjoy that. That's fun. Like I've been playing a bunch of brawls lately. That was hilarious. Tons of fun to be had in brawls. But outside of that, I just no. I don't find that level of enjoyment. I don't find that level of just the sort of like the confidence in the company that they will in the long run make good choices and they will not be such greedy people, right? It's like I don't have faith in that anymore, right? Like in like 5 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever, 3 years ago even, you could at least say, okay, feel like there's a partnership going on, right? Like you guys been around, you know what I'm talking about. There's this partnership. We feel like we have this partnership with Wargaming, right? We help them, they help us. We guide them, they sort of help us with their reasoning and rationale. Like today, it's like God. I feel like I'm just part of this big free advertising machine. And my whole role is to shill for, their boxes, like every single patch or something, like it almost seems like what they want from us. You know what I mean? And it's just like, oh my Lord, it's like there's capitalism and then there's Wargaming's version of capitalism. It's like crank it up to 50, like.
And as Jingles pointed out, this compared to other free-to-play developers, especially in the mobile market, they're not even that bad. They're far from being the worst.
Sad but true.
Yeah, that's our ringing endorsement of Wargaming. Wargaming, far from being the worst.
I mean, they're not yet at like Electronic Arts level or something like that.
Well, I mean, they haven't hit the level of like the Genshin Impact developers, so they're not there yet.
Yeah. Or the greediness of the sports franchise games where they put out literally the same game year after year.
Yeah, I mean that's Electronic Arts, right? They basically make now sports designed casinos, right?
I think them, 2K, who are the other major developers that do them? I don't know, but they're all basically they've figured out they can get away with just putting out the same game essentially with roster changes, sometimes literally with the same bugs that last year's had, kind of thing. So the height of laziness, and these are supposed to be big AAA developers. So yeah,
Yeah, we really we need. I think I guess the final thought for the day for me is I think wargaming needs a legitimate competitor that is not Gaijin.
Yeah.
Somebody who is willing to produce a product that is, on a gameplay loop wise, as good, if not better, than World of Warships, with none of the scummy crap that wargaming does. Oh God, I can't say that, right? They're gonna come over and tap me on the shoulder and be like, you don't get to say that now. We gotta issue you another
poke
warning.
too hard.
Yes. KGB monitor you now. But it's one of those things that with wargaming, it's they need competition. They need somebody to go in there and make them have to work for the player base, because right now they own the naval side, like in World of Warships. They just own it. There's no other product out there that is remotely close in terms of gameplay loop enjoyment. There's nothing at that level, not even one little thing, and as long as they own that, they got monopoly, and monopolies can treat their player base like whatever, because wargaming is probably going, we have data, we know you all come back at the end, yeah, comrade. That's the thing, right? You know how it is, some games, it's there's that little itch you gotta scratch, right? And wargaming knows this. They know you come back. Yes. It's kind of like your relationship with a bad, it's a bad girlfriend, was it? Like they say, it's I shouldn't go back to her, but man, something was kind of good back then. So you kind of go crawling back, right? And you just give it another try, and then you are reminded of all the horrible things, and then you leave, and then you go, but then again, that was pretty good. So, it's kind of like awfully abusive type relationship that you have with wargaming. But yeah, no, they need competition. They really do, because at the current rate, as long as they don't have competition, I think this game will probably last easily another 10 years. I think, as long as they, they can do an engine swap or whatever, upgrade the graphics or whatever. I think as long as they don't have competition, they can probably keep going. But if there is legitimately good conversation, competition, wargaming, I think, will be in a lot more trouble unless they, they get their stuff sorted out. And let's just hope that, and then this is my hope, is that other developers are keeping an eye out on this section of the gaming industry and going, that's a very interesting, audience you have there, who seem to be happy to whale lots of money. Maybe we can come in, do it better than you, and just yoink a bunch of your player base over. That could be a thing. Who knows? Waiting for it.
I mean, I agree there. Basically, I play World of Warships because I still have fun, and there is no real competition, right? There is no other game that gives me the same thing that World of Warships does, and even with all its faults, even with all the things I dislike, I still have fun playing it, and I'll come back playing it as long as it scratches that itch.
Yep. See, that's the problem. That's the problem for all of us, right? There's just no competition. So at the end, you have that itch, and you're like, all right, kind of want to go play this again. It's there. It's like think about other games you have that relationship with. It's like Diablo 3. That's mine. Every year or two, it's suddenly, oh wait, hold on, I gotta go scratch that itch now, right? One of my friends is the same way. He describes it as having the Pon Far. If anybody is tricky here, he describes it as the Pon Far, and he's gotta deal with it. So
that's one hell of a way of putting it. Well, I mean, yeah, I think that's entirely on point. There's no way that they could otherwise get away with charging AAA or more game prices for individual premium ships. Otherwise, so they've figured out something that keeps people coming back over and over and opening their wallets enough to make it viable.
And don't forget those that quote unquote AAA cost now is not just AAA cost. It's the platinum version collector's edition cost now. We're getting there now. We're not at the normal thing. It's like single premium is there at that price point now. You want to open 72 boxes for Johan de Witt. You've literally just bought like platinum collector's edition of whatever AAA title you want, and maybe another gold edition for a friend, because why not?
Oh, you fancy your tier 10 premium? Like how about like $150 or so?
Yeah, that's the eye water. The price for the Napoli was definitely eye watering. Not unexpected, but definitely eye watering.
And then it's going to be more, considering how many people bought Napoli. Like, I expect to see more and more and more of that type of monetization. Come pay us, with so much money, for one ship that you might only play 30 games with or whatever. I have this feeling that that's where we're going now. And because you look at it, I think the average for most people is like what? Like, unless you have like the favorite ship that is like, you're basically ready to, as the people who play Azur Lane and Kansai Collection, you're willing to ring and marry and play with that ship every single day. And you might get, like a couple hundred battles in that particular ship, right? I mean, but that's it. That's your enjoyment. A couple hundred battles for something you're paying, the equivalent of a very high-end collector's edition of a AAA title, right? Like, that's what you're getting out of it. Where that other AAA title might net you way more playtime, right? Way more playtime.
Yeah.
And, if it's costing that much, it might even be something that comes with something physical.
Yeah, like books or figurines or other cool things, or and that's what they're charging for purely digital goods. Oh man, that's where it's going. I mean, the danger of having the first sort of tier 10 go out on sale is that we're going to see more and more of them, right? And the more we see it, the more, got to milk the player base for every single penny, right? And this is what I said. Competition will probably set that straight. Like if a competitor came in with a better product and Wargaming watched its population just decline and drop off, then you might see them actually go, oh, hold on a second, we can't do this anymore, right? But that requires somebody else to actually figure out how to do that, like how to build a product that will have the same.
Especially for this kind of online thing, it's a lot of potential time and investment. So, yeah, it's finding someone that's willing to do that thinks they have a good enough idea that will actually lure enough people away, maybe even bring in enough new people to make it viable. Anyway, who knows what the future will bring?
Exactly. And I think we've through all of our topics for now, right?
Yeah, we've been going for a good chunk of time, so this is probably a good time to wrap it up. So whereabouts can we find you on the interwebs, iChase, apart from your YouTube?
YouTube and Twitch mostly, but more YouTube and slightly less Twitch. I mean, I'm kind of in that period of time right now where I'm not as active online as I used to be. School obviously doing whatever school's got to do. But hey, I'm still around, still posting stuff every so often, and not always World of Warships, thank goodness. Some naval architecture stuff along the way. So talk more about marine industry and things like that, and try to make other content, not just purely like, oh, this game which I enjoy playing, but the company makes me wanna punch my screen and throw it out the window kind of feeling. But yeah, that's pretty much where you find me. I'm also on obviously the usual social media, Twitter, Facebook, although more active on Twitter than I am on most other platforms. Not much of an Instagram or TikToker or anything like that. I mean, I'm getting old, guys. I can't do the tween TikTok thing anymore. Okay, like
we don't get to see your cool new dances.
Yeah.
Stolen for
exactly. Exactly. And that's mostly where you can find me. I'm around. I'm also on Discord. In fact, if you want to ever reach out, Discord is the easiest way. Just just poke me on Discord. Got questions or whatever you got, just poke me there. Anyways, that I guess thanks for having me on, guys. It was fun.
Thanks for joining
Good
us.
to chat about boats and our collective love-hate relationship with this game that we all play.
Oh yes, we are like one of those self-help groups now, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So thanks everyone for watching, and bye.
Take care, everybody. We'll catch you all next time.